Hello, everybody. So, if you haven't already gone to passbuddy.com, head on over. That's where you'll find all of my crash courses, tutoring opportunities, all of our practice exams, everything that you need to help you pass your real estate exam. So, going over to passbuddy.com. But today, what I wanted to do was this. I wanted to talk about the essential elements of a contract. This is something that I get asked questions about a lot. So I want you to take your pen and paper out because I want to point a couple things out about contracts and I want to help you understand this. So the very first thing that I want to tell you is this. When you're studying contracts for your real estate exam, do not make the assumption that when they say the word contract, they are always talking about a real estate contract. That is the biggest thing that trips everyone up. Because what you have to understand is this: when you are studying the real estate exam and you are studying the contract section, you're learning contract law. So we could be talking about anything because let's define a contract. So I think this is the first step that you need to do. Get a pen and paper out and really define a contract. And I'll give you my easy definition. Well, I'm not going to say easy, but my definition of it. So, a contract is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties to do or not do something. So, now when you hear contract, you should be thinking of that. Don't automatically make an assumption that we're talking about a sales contract, a lease contract, a real estate contract of any sort. Think of it as an agreement between two or more parties to do or not do something. That is what a contract is. So now let's talk about what those four essential elements of a contract are. So in order for us to have a contract, we need to have these four essential elements. Those are going to be competent parties, legal objective, offer and acceptance, and consideration. Now, an easy way for you to all remember this is clock without a K. So, clock without a K, you will have CLOC. So, you have competent parties, legal objective, offer and acceptance, and consideration. Now, what I want to do is this: I want to first start and talk about competent parties because a lot of you always make the assumption, and now raise your hand virtually if this is you. You make the assumption that competent party means that you have to be of legal age, right? Raise your hands, raise your hands. Everyone always says this. You have to be of legal age, right? No, 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 nay, nay, my good friends. Competent parties does not mean that. So now you're probably asking me the question. So, Stu, you're saying that minors can enter into contracts? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And you're probably thinking, oh, pish posh, pish posh. What kind of contracts could minors enter into? Well, I always like to give a couple different examples, right? Um, if you think about it, you ever go to a Burger King in the summer or, a fast food joint? Do they not? I'm going to ask you a question. Do they not have 16, 17-year olds, 15-year olds working behind the counter? Sure, they do. Absolutely. 100, 1000%. Did those minors not sign employment contracts with McDonald's, Burger King, wherever they're working? They probably did to protect them and to protect the employer. Now, my question to you is this: is that not an agreement? It is. So now, if we take our definition of what a contract is, isn't that a contract? Well, yes, it is. Oh, well, by golly, look at that. Those are minors entering into legally binding contracts, huh? So now let's get back to competent parties. Basically, this is saying, is everyone of sound mind and are we agreeing under our own free will and do we have the legal capacity to do so? Now, again, minors don't have the legal capacity to enter into every contract in every state. Okay. So it's a situation where you have to apply the second essential element of a contract. Is the objective of this agreement legal? Now, what do I mean by that? Is the objective legal? Right? Because, and I use that word because I think that you have to look at a contract and say, when there is an agreement, what is the objective? What are we trying to get to here? Right. So if it's a contract for employment, there are obviously things that an employer has to do, the one of the parties, and the employee has to do in that situation. And now let's kick it back to real estate for a second, right? Let's go back to real estate for a hot minute. And now with real estate, when we're talking about maybe the sale of a property, right? The seller has to transfer title and the buyer has to transfer funds, right? That's going to be the legal objective, is transferring ownership of the property. Now, is that legal? Yeah, selling a home is perfectly legal. Employing a 15-year-old at Burger King is perfectly legal. Now, unless there are laws that prohibit it. So let's just kind of, you know, take the Burger King situation, right? Where it's perfectly fine legal with working papers in most states to hire a 15 or a 16-year-old to work at a Burger King. Is it legal to hire a 5-year-old to work at Burger King? No. There are there are labor laws preventing that. That's child labor. Okay? So there are no papers, there's nothing that you can sign off on for Burger King to legally hire a 5-year-old. So again, the legal objective of that contract would not be met. The legal objective of a contract that was for illegal substances. So take any illegal substance. I'm not going to say any of them, but take any illegal substance, and I am selling you. Let's say we wanted to put on paper. Let's say we were really silly criminals, and we wanted to put down on paper our illegal substance deal. Okay. So what happens is this: I would be saying, I'll buy said illegal substance from you. You will sell it to me. Okay, and we'll put it on paper. Guess what? Or even if we didn't put it on paper, does every contract need to be in writing? That's another fascinating thing. Not every contract needs to be in writing. Keep that in mind. You know, and what I want you to do is this: when I'm talking about each one of these, I want you to focus on what I'm telling you here and take notes on this. Really get a notepad down. When you're studying, you should be getting a notepad down. And you should be writing down, some of these things that you're picking up on, or that you really kind of have an aha moment about. And I think that just saying that right now, the not every contract needs to be in writing. That's something you really also need to take into consideration, because certain contracts need to be in writing, and we'll get into that in another video, but not every contract needs to be in writing. Keep that in mind as we're going along. So, again, the legal objective: do we have a legal purpose for what we are doing? The next thing that we have to have in any contract is going to be offer and acceptance. Okay. We have X terms, and do we all agree to X terms? Are we good here? Okay. Are we a okay with these terms that we've agreed to? And me selling you my house for this price, are we good? If there's no offer and acceptance, then we don't have a valid contract. Obviously, we would just have an offer. If I said to you, I want to buy your house for $300,000, but you say, nay, nay, Stu, my home is listed for 500,000. I don't agree to those terms. Okay. Also, you could take any contract, anything, and then flip it that if there's no acceptance, we need both of these. There needs to be an offer, some sort of terms laid out, and then there has to be some sort of acceptance that all parties agree to. And then the last thing that we have to have in any valid contract is consideration. There must be good or valuable consideration given for the contract to be valid. Now, what do I mean by good or valuable? So, what happens is this: let's take the employment contract, because we agreed that the employment contract is a contract, right? The employer is giving the employee money. So what is it that they're exchanging? What is their promise? Okay, because they're not giving anything that is valuable. They're not giving, like, they're not selling them a watch or a piece of machinery. They're not doing something like that. So what is it that they're giving? They're giving what's considered to be good consideration. Good consideration happens when there's either work, love and affection, if it's between family members. Certain contracts would have that. Okay. But good good consideration is not valuable. Okay. So their labor would be considered what is good consideration. Okay. So the employer is giving valuable consideration to the employee. The employee is in then returning with their labor, their timeliness, and their accountability that is considered good consideration. So I hope that this helped you understand the essential elements of a contract. And I hope this gives you a better idea. And remember, if you need some extra help on this, or you want to try to get yourself through some practice exams to help you pass your real estate exam, head on over to passbuddy.com and I will see you all real soon. Have a great one, everybody.